So a little while ago, a documentary came out called The Social Dilemma, and it was absolutely phenomenal. I think it was very eye-opening for a lot of people. I think it was really well done. I personally really enjoyed it. And it brought attention to the fact that social media companies and internet companies, internet servers, Google and so on, their number one intention is to increase their bottom line, which is natural. They're a business, to be expected. But the way they do it is by trying to keep you on their platforms for as long as possible. So they're trying to grab at your attention. And now a lot of people have an addiction to their phone. They have an addiction to email, Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, Google, whatever, YouTube. And they show how these internet companies are very meticulously and strategically exploiting your own psychology to keep you engaged. And this manifests itself into all sorts of problems. Keeping your attention engaged in it for very long periods of time in itself is a problem. There's a correlation between technology usage and mental health. There's definitely a correlation. They actually showed a lot of statistics in the film about the boom of social media and the spike of suicide rates and mental health issues amongst young teens. And another big issue that has manifested as a result of this is hyperpolarization of views, which means that if you were a little bit on the left wing or a little bit on the right wing, now you're over here. And once you're drastically on either side, you're more focused on the differences than the similarities. So now we have less of a synthesis going on, which is the most ideal thing to happen. The more unity we have, the more we can find common ground, the better. And this isn't just in politics, it's with anything. But now we have these hyper polarized views that everybody has, and it makes that a lot easier to buy into various conspiracies and propaganda that might be showed to you. And it's manifested itself into a lot of issues. And it's not just that people have very solidified belief systems now, it's that people will be going to war over these beliefs that are not grounded in much. The documentary was called The Social Dilemma. Like I said, I thought it was really well done. I want to give a shout out to Tristan Harris. He was somebody who worked for, I believe, Google and Facebook and was a very intricate part of their marketing teams. And he kind of stepped outside of what he was doing and looked in on it and realized that there's a lot of issues that are rising as a result of what we're doing here. And that was his motivation to make the film, which he did. He wasn't the producer or anything, but he was kind of the main guy that was articulating things the whole time. He had most of the know-how. So I want to commend him on his ability to step outside of his world and look in on it and recognize the consequences as a result of those actions. Like I said, it was amazing. I enjoyed it. One thing, though, it was called The Social Dilemma. And I think I was expecting something else. I don't really know what I was expecting, but it seemed very focused on technology, which is very important. I actually have a video on understanding our short attention spans and addictions in the age of technology. So go give that a watch if you haven't already. It brings a lot of awareness into our addictions to our phones and various other technologies, video games, internet pornography, and so on. But the fact that it was called The Social Dilemma, I was kind of expecting something else. And I'm not upset that I didn't get what I was expecting, but I want to talk about what I think is the number one social dilemma. And it's very fundamental. It kind of gives rise to everything else that they were talking about in the film that they made. So that's why this video was titled The Real Social Dilemma. Now, what the real social dilemma comes from is the fact that we're wired from like a biological perspective, like because of evolution, the way we've evolved, we're wired biologically to want to fit in as part of a group, right? Humans used to be very, very tribal. And we still are, not quite in the same sense as we used to be. But humans used to operate in tribes, and we had to fit in as part of that group. Our survival depended on it. If you are one of 100 people that was a collective, now you can get a lot more done. You can gather a lot more resources. You can have a lot more access to different things. If you are one of one individual trying to survive in the wild, your chances at survival were not nearly as high. So biologically, we're wired to want to fit in as part of a group. This is something that's very important to recognize. Now, you can see, if you just take 2 seconds and reflect on your childhood, and probably even still now, that we are still very much psychologically wired to operate in this way. We want to fit in, right? We want approval from our peers when we're children. We want to fit in. We want to be kind of viewed as one of the cool kids, maybe. And maybe you weren't like this, but you can definitely see that the vast majority of people were as children and probably still are, if they haven't seen through it yet and reflected on this. So I think the number one social dilemma is this bid to fit in. It's this obsession on how you're being perceived by others. That is our number one social dilemma in 2021. And the reason that this is so is because it manifests itself into us being very reserved in expressing ourselves authentically and without fear. As a teenager at parties, I always loved to dance. But that wasn't a thing that everybody was doing. And granted, maybe some people just don't love to dance. But I'm sure if you removed all the fear and all the doubt, all the fear of judgment and how others are perceiving us, all the reservations around dance, then a lot more people would be dancing. Naturally, it just feels great to move your energy around. And even people dancing alone might be judging themselves, let alone dancing in front of a crowd. So this is just an example of how this plays a role in our lives. Maybe you love to dance, but you've never really been confident enough to do it because you've been scared of looking silly, that other people might look at you as not being a good dancer. So that obsession with the fear, or that obsession with the perspective of others, holds you back in that sense. And I call it an obsession. And you might think, oh, Evan, it's not an obsession. Sure, I'm not really comfortable with dancing in big settings with a lot of people around and maybe watching me. But I wouldn't call that an obsession. That's just one way that it might be manifesting itself into your life. But I say it's an obsession because I've come to realize more and more that it really is. I have a video called "Why Are You Doing What You're Doing with Your Life?" And I talk about how our decisions are largely influenced by our conditioning, our cultural conditioning. And that is very important into this topic. We're able to be so culturally imprinted. Oh, you got to go get a university degree, right? Because then you'll have good security in that you'll never be financially struggling. You'll always find a job if you have a university degree, right? That's a cultural imprint. Now you have all this pressure, not only from others anymore, but also from yourself, because you've adopted this belief to go and get that degree, even if you don't give a shit about getting a degree. Maybe you don't know what you want to do out of high school, but you went into a university degree program that you didn't really care too much about, but just because you didn't really know what else to do, and that was the thing that everybody was doing. that was the thing that was going to give you the most validation from others. People are going, oh, what do you do? They're going to ask you, right? What do you do? Oh, I'm in school. I'm a student. Oh, nice. What are you studying? Oh, great job. But imagine you come out of high school, somebody asks you, oh, what do you do? Oh, I'm not doing anything right now. I'm actually just working part-time at a grocery store just to make a little bit of money while I figure out what I want to do with my life. That might be a lot more looked down on. So we have a lot of pressure that we create ourselves. The pressure is only there if we allow it to be there. And this is the pressure that we get from others, from doing the thing that's going to optimize our validation from other people. But the thing is, and this is why this is the number one social dilemma, is that if you let this mechanism of seeking validation from others, optimizing your validation from other people, right? Being obsessed with the other people's perspectives and judgments of you. If you let that mechanism firstly go unnoticed, it's still going to operate. So you might be thinking, oh, I don't have that. Careful. You might have that. There's a good chance that you do, at least to some degree. Take a look, reflect. If it's there, you'll know it's there. If it's there and you be honest with yourself, you'll know that that mechanism is there. Constantly seeking validation from others in your course of action. So if it goes unnoticed, undetected, that will be a major contributor to you not being happy in your life. If it goes, and it's the same thing, if it goes noticed but not acted on, noticing it is the first action step. But then you can keep it in your awareness and start refining the decisions that you're making to be more authentic to yourself. Now, there might be some things, might be some skills that you need to build up in order to go ahead and take that action. Maybe you need to work on your confidence. Go ahead and watch my video on how to become more confident. That was a good one. Got a lot of positive feedback on that. Takes you through a step-by-step process. But what I want you to focus on here is that might very well be a large contribution to your misery, your dissatisfaction in life. Is that you're operating under this mechanism of seeking validation from others. And the reason that makes you miserable and doesn't let you have any sense of actual fulfillment or satisfaction is because you're spending all your time and energy doing something that isn't authentically true to you. So maybe you're really passionate about something, but this mechanism of seeking validation and approval from others and being concerned with the judgment of others has kind of run its course, and instead of going over here to what you were passionate about, as you started going, it was like, it's easier just to go this way. You receive a lot more validation from your external world if you just go that way. But then maybe what you have is 20 years down the road, you've been going this way. And you're like, fuck, I'm not happy. There's something missing. I'm not fulfilled with my life. Well, it's because authentically, you wanted to go this way. You wanted to be here and see what was in this direction. And maybe you didn't even recognize that because your own sense of authenticity might be so buried under this mechanism that I'm calling the number one social dilemma. It's buried underneath the fact that you're constantly seeking validation and approval from others. Now, I want to highlight who these others are. Well, they're everyone. They're your whole culture. They're wherever you're growing up in. That's why if you're born into a Catholic family, you have a better chance of being a Catholic than a Muslim. It just makes sense. You want to fit in as part of that group, as part of your family. You want them to accept you. And you just get imprinted with those beliefs from such a young age. And maybe it's your whole culture. Maybe you live in a state or in a country where that's the predominant religion, or maybe political views. It goes with everything, right? Maybe the views on how you can be a good working class citizen and how you can be a positive contribution to society. If your country thinks, oh, artists, they're not a positive contribution to society, they're a bunch of bums. Bankers, on the other hand, that's a good old American boy. Then even if you kind of feel it in your heart that you're passionate about being an artist, well, you can see where now you're more inclined to go be a banker. So it's largely your culture, but it's going to be predominantly the people that you spend the most time around. So maybe take a look at what kind of environment you went to school in, what the energy was pointing you towards in that environment. Your siblings, your immediate group of friends, and especially your parents. Your parents are going to be the biggest one. Any elderly figure that might be immediate to you in family or maybe family friends. Because naturally, especially from a young age, we think that because people have more life experience than us and maybe more success, maybe they have a house, and they love us, let's not forget that, they want the best for us. Because of that, they have good advice to offer. They're pointing us in a good direction. And this may very well be the case. And in a lot of circumstances, your parents are going to give you really good advice. And you should value that. But in a lot of circumstances, some of the advice that you're receiving might be very grounded in a biased perspective. That is, that it's their perspective. It's coming from what they're feeling, which might very well be fear, which is no place to base your decisions from. And it's not what you are feeling. So it's not the best advice necessarily. That's what I'm getting at here. Just because somebody loves you and they want the best for you doesn't mean that they're best equipped to give you the best advice. Be open-minded. Hear what everybody has to say, but use your own discernment. And the way you do that is by feeling what's true to you. Be authentic to yourself. Choose the things that feel the best. Now, I'm not saying go choose cocaine because you did it that one time and it felt really good. So now you should just do it all the time. That's not what I'm saying. Again, use your discernment here. Recognize that in the long run, give it a couple weeks, probably less. I don't know. I don't have any experience with cocaine use, but I know quite a few people that have, and it's taken a very negative toll on their lives. It doesn't take a rocket scientist. If you are somebody that starts to use these types of drugs and, indulges in video games or just various hedonistic things, junk food, whatever, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to go ahead and do those things to then realize, oh, this is not making me feel good. So when I say choose the things that feel best, have some big picture understanding. Don't think just, short term, like. So that's the biggest social dilemma, is that we have this mechanism of seeking validation from others because naturally it's biologically ingrained in us, which is what makes it kind of counterintuitive to notice that it has some negative effects. So the social dilemma, that is the mechanism of seeking validation and being obsessed with the perspectives and the judgment of others, is a very big problem. And it's something that is most likely having negative consequences for the way you're feeling in your life. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you've got this all figured out already and you actually don't care. In that case, I'm not talking to you. But in most cases, I would say at least over 90% of the time, in one way or another, this mechanism has an effect on you that might have at least some negative consequences. Maybe it's not as dominant a force in your life as it might be in some other people's lives. But I would say at least 90% of people, probably at least 95%, this is something that's manifesting itself into their lives to have some negative consequences in one way or another. So the bottom line here is be true to yourself. Stop giving so much value to the opinions of others over the opinion of yourself. And I just caught something there that might sound like I'm saying, be quick to discredit other people's opinions. No, don't do that. Entertain it. But if it overrides what's feeling authentic to you, don't let that happen. Entertain what people have to say. Hear what people have to say. People are smart as fuck. You can learn a lot from a lot of people. But you can also learn a lot of fear from a lot of people. You can also learn to not take risks. Because life is very counterintuitive. And a lot of people don't understand that. So they think that security and comfort is happiness. That's what they want. Right at the end of the day, we all make our decisions to be happy. But having a lot of security and a lot of money is comfortable. It's not necessarily happy per se. Go check out my video on why money can't make you happy to dive a little bit deeper into that insight. I have a whole video on that. It gets past the cliche of money can't make you happy, because of course we need money to survive, but you can go check out that video for more on that. One more thing I want to talk about here is you can kind of do a little bit of a litmus test in terms of, and don't let this be the be all and end all, but nevertheless, it is a little bit of a litmus test, and all testing has its limitations. And I recognize that this litmus test here has its limitations, but anyways, here it is. The people that are giving you advice, especially, it's a whole other thing that I want to get into. But anyways, the people that are going to be giving you advice, a lot of the times have an arm-long list of regrets in their life. And they're not very happy, they're not very fulfilled. They might be successful materially. They might have a home and a mortgage that's paid. Right? That's material success. But they may very well not be very happy in their lives. Like I said, they have an arm-long list of regrets. And this is a lot of people. A lot of people are very financially secure, but they're not fundamentally happy. They haven't gotten in touch with the art and genius of being, especially being authentic. If you're not being authentic, you're not being, you're doing. You're doing something, you're putting on a show. So that's a bit of a litmus test to kind of put people through. Now, like I said, that has its limitations. Don't hold somebody's opinion as negligible. Don't negate the advice that they're giving you just because maybe they've made a couple mistakes in their lives, in their lives. They may very well have the best advice to offer because they've made some mistakes in their life. But anyways, that's just something to think about. Now I want to talk about why the people closest to you are going to have the most to say. And you may very well be thinking, well, it's because they want the best for you and they love you. And that does have a big role in the matter. But perhaps even more powerfully and even more of a factor in why they have the most to say is because you are an extension of them in their mind. especially your parents. So you're an extension of them. They equate you surviving and having security with them having security. Right? Their sense of survival is directly tied into your sense of well-being, let's say. But their idea of well-being is most likely very limited. They're not you. In their minds, in their survival sense, they are. But they're not you. They can't feel into your deepest and authentic most desires, which is very important to make note of. Only you can do that. So although your parents and really anybody who might be giving you advice, or really anybody who might be projecting judgment onto you that's affecting you because you have this issue of placing so much value on the opinions of others, which is what this video is all about, caring about what others think. So not just your parents, but anybody that falls into that category. It is so important to make note of the fact that they cannot feel into your deepest and authentic most desires. Your deepest and authentic most desires are actually the key ingredient in your creation process. So you're going to be the most effective at creating things. And when I say creative process, I mean, even if you're passionate about being an accountant, you're creating things as an accountant. You don't necessarily have to be an artist. When I say the creative process here, I'm talking about any work that you're doing, anything that you're contributing. So your creative process is going to be done most effectively and most powerfully when it's coming from a place of authentic and true desire. And when I say desire, I'm going to make a whole separate video on the law of attraction where I'll cover this, but I don't mean just things that we're obsessing over and that we're wanting, like how we desire approval from others. That's not what I mean when I say desire. I mean things that you're actually passionate about creating, truly and authentically, for no reason other than the fact that you're passionate about it. So that's who you probably have to watch out for the most. And I recognize that most of my audience right now is probably at a decently young age, which is why that's a critical point to bring up. But you'd be surprised how many people are still kind of caught up on the opinions of their parents. Even like friends that I have in their 40s, in their 30s, in their 50s even. Still, there's that dynamic there, and it still kind of bothers them. So that's very important. They play a pivotal role in your life. But not just them, even the people who you're surrounded with, maybe colleagues, like I said, your culture, maybe your group of friends. So I think that wraps up today's video on the real social dilemma, which is caring about what others think. And I hope I broke down for you why it's important to take some value off of the opinions of others. Yes, use your own discernment to take good advice, right? Don't just shut everybody away. Oh, but Evan said that it's not good to value the opinions of others. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't hear what people have to say, but use your own discernment. People have to say really good things, and they give really good advice, and people also give really bad advice. So I hope this video serviced you and helping you to kind of refine your discernment in your search of what advice is valuable. But nevertheless, don't take things so seriously. Don't place such a huge importance on the opinions of others, even though they have the best things in mind for you. They might have the best intentions for you, and it's coming from a place of love. That doesn't replace the fact that they're not you, and that they have their own conditioning and trauma that is kind of directing their decision-making process as well. So like I said, that wraps up today's video. I hope you found a lot of value in this. I'm signing off. If you enjoyed it, please give it a like. Be sure to go subscribe to the channel for more content like this. And let me know what you thought in the comments down below. I also offer private coaching sessions. And the first one is free for anybody who's seeking some coaching. So you can go ahead and send me a direct message on Instagram. I'll include the link to my Instagram page in the description below, or you can send me an email. I'll give you my email in the description below as well. So you can go ahead and reach out to me for a free coaching session. No obligation. If you want to do more work with me after our coaching session because you found it really valuable, then we could talk. And if not, if it's a one and done, then more power to you. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Take care. Have a nice day.